Hello, my loves, and welcome back to Along the Spiritual Journey. So, this is Avoiding the Roster Part 2. So, in Part 1, I talk about my initial 2 week rule when I first meet someone when it comes to dating. You can go check that video out. This video is now about what happens when you make it to the 2 weeks. What do you do after that? So, 2 weeks after meeting someone, and after I have done my are we just friends who are still friends, no attachment to each other? We're not trying to put each other in a serious relationship yet, but we are romantically attracted to each other and we want to see where this goes. Or do you want to be platonically friends and go from there? This is what the first video is about. So this would be moving on to second week, going 3 to 4 weeks in, so closing out the month. In the first month, or the remaining of that month, which is usually the last 2 weeks, is where I start allowing the connections to flow organically. So what I like to do is, let's say in the example I gave in the first video, I said there was one person where they were inconsistent in texting, they weren't following up, but I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, they could be shy. So that's when I pose the question to them, would you like to be friends or would you like to be romantic interests? And continue this path of going on dates. This is where I leave opportunity for this person to speak and come back and say, hey, you know what? I wasn't sure at first, or I'm a little shy. It takes me some time to get to know people. That's okay. But what we want to do with this type of energy is reignite the fire, because some people really don't know how to keep the fire going, nor do they know how to ignite it. Some people aren't flirtatious as others. Some people aren't as talkative as others. So when it comes to letting you know they like you, it is really, really hard for them. So sometimes you lighting that initiation is important. So when I pose this question to them, and I give them the remaining 2 weeks or 1 week, depending on how much empathy you have for them, I give a week, the third week. If I don't hear from you, let's say we met the first week or talked the first week, second week we went on a date. By the third week, if I'm still initiating every conversation and every opportunity regardless, or if you're not letting me know that you're interested romantically, or even just as a simple friend so that we don't confuse it into a situationship, then yes, I'm going to let you go, because I don't want to be put in a situationship where you're trying to figure out what you want as if I'm an option. I'm not anyone's option, and I don't want anybody to be my option. I have choices. If my choices fall into an option, that means that I found two really good people that it's hard to pick between, and that happens. But what we're talking about right now is making sure that we don't fall into situationships or being put on a roster because we didn't articulate our needs up front. The same difference for, let's say, I was talking about person two, where we met the first week, they were consistent in speech, we had a first date, we were good on the date, everything was great. What happens by week two? This person just turns out to be a player or a narcissist. That's okay, because at least you now know that you were able to dwindle it down and to be able to see the patterns of behavior, so that if this person is going to act a fool, by week 3, going on week 4, closing out the month, you're going to start seeing their true behaviors. Because a real narcissist, if you're not giving what they want, they're going to start burning out. So during this time, I still keep it very cordial. The person that I know we had a connection with, I don't tell them that, oh, my first week, second week, third week rule. That is for me. A lot of these rules people tell each other and they say, this is what I'm doing. Don't tell people what you're doing. It's for you. It's not manipulative if you're doing something that's protecting your health, your journey, your dating experience, to make it a good, functional one and healthy one. But you do have to know that these are other people who are involved and their emotions are involved. So you don't want to put them in situations that make them feel like you're playing with them either. So this is what I say, it's a lot more complicated. It can be very simple, but there are going to be nuances to everything that can make it complicated when you start trying to explain it in linear speech, because we have to go this way to explain stuff and people are just going to have to follow that train of thought, versus it being emotional, which is all around us. Emotions radiate all around us. So they are a lot easier to read, but if people are masking, it's hard to tell. That's why we're getting confused in this reality of the world we exist in. We're so focused on the words that people speak versus the emotions that we feel. So this is why I say it's important. I'm not so stressed if someone's not texting me all the time, but if they're not trying to get to know me through the text that they do send, that tells me that that person is not interested. May they truly be interested? I'm telling you now, for anyone who is dealing with the feminine, and you're a masculine energy, if you're not expressing to that feminine that you desire them as a friend or romantic, they will leave, or they'll sit around and wait for you to find it. And that's where we want to get away from. We don't want to be so distorted in someone's energy that we're waiting for you to find what you deserve, and then you come back and go down your list and say, this person was always it. Because for some reason, a lot of people want to be chosen that way. They want to be a pick me, which is like, well, I was the best out of all the options. No. I am always my own best choice, and if I choose to be a part of someone's roster, then I understand that I am playing a game of my own emotions, and it might not always play out in my favor. This is always going to be the gamble. And if the person that you're waiting for is worth the risk, then wait. That's okay. I'm not saying dismiss or disown these people, but what I'm saying is don't invest all of your time to them in the beginning, because then you're going to start confusing yourself, giving them relationship energy. And then after month 1 passes, you're doing the same thing in month 2, which makes it feel like it's a more stable relationship, but it's not. It's just a continuance of that first month's confusion. That's why I say it's really important to say what you want within the first 2 weeks. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If someone gets freaked out by that, then they're not ready. And I don't care what anyone says. Because if I meet someone, again, I romantically don't know what it's going to become, but I physically know if I have an attraction to them. And if I have a physical attraction to them, then that's the part I want to explore to see if there's also an emotional attraction as well as an intellectual attraction and then a spiritual attraction. That way, you know, when you start getting to know them, you first screen them in the beginning that this person says they want a romantic relationship, so I'm going to invest time in them and take that path, versus just being friends with somebody, meeting them for a date or off an app, talking to them for a week, going out with them, but then you keep going out and you don't know if they're actually into you. Like, let's say you never kiss or you never hold hands, but you're really intimate in your conversation, you're really intimate in the date you go to, but there's still mixed signals. That's on the person, both persons, to ask, hey, what are we doing? Because this feels really romantic, and I don't do this with my friends. Like, I love my friends, but my friends don't get this type of treatment. This type of treatment is meant for a romantic partner. So if that's what we're doing, let's do that and continue that and decide if we want to be actual partners, boyfriend, girlfriend. Because the first month, in my opinion, because I used to do this, I was out there trying to be picked too. That first month, we start dating right away. Like, you're my boyfriend, you're my girlfriend, everything's exclusive. And then there would be people who come along month 2, month 3, where you're like, oh man, like that person's awesome too. And that would have been a great time to really get to know them. Dating is about taking your time and figuring out what you want. You don't have to rush into it. You can rush into it. There's nothing wrong with rushing into a relationship, in my opinion, if you both know what you want and you're going to put in the work to keep it up. But if you rush into a relationship, don't know what you want, don't know how to keep it up, and then you get mad and frustrated that someone is expecting you to give them some type of time frame of what you're doing with their emotions and their experience, then yes, you're going backwards down your own journey, because you're going to keep then blaming that person or those persons or that experience for rejecting you before you knew you were ready. In reality, it's not about if you know you were ready when you meet somebody. If you meet someone, especially on dating apps, that's the point of a dating app, is you're saying you're semi-ready. It's not saying you're going to jump into anything with everybody, but it's saying you're semi-ready. If you're not semi-ready, you should not be on dating apps, period. If you are that bored and want attention, they have tons of apps with tons of features. Think about Bumble. How many people are actually on Bumble Friends, right? But they take their little hot selves over to Bumble Dating and say, I just want to be friends. There's a whole section for people who want to be friends, but people dilute themselves in saying, no, I want that relationship first, and then I'm going to put you in a friend zone until I decide what to do with you. Stop letting people do this to you. So that's all I'm going to say on this topic. The first 2 weeks is establishing, are we friends who want to become more, or are we friends who are going to remain platonic? Weeks 3 and 4 is when you start really starting to figure out what this person is about. Start observing their behavior, start observing if they're actually going to continue the same way that they came in. Because a lot of times by the end of 4 weeks, somebody who's really not interested, they're going to burn out and that wick is going to fizzle out. So take your time and figure out the process how you want to. These are my rules that I create for myself. You can feel free to make your own. I hope that makes sense. Love ya. Mwah.